Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Argelia. Yes, very important feature that we want to make sure that everyone agrees to this meeting being recorded. So Nora Garza leads our Dignity Health Outreach and Learning Centers here in Bakersfield. And they have quite a few programs out there helping the Southeast neighborhood where they're located at with many resources. So Nora, I won't steal your thunder. You go ahead and talk about the Learning Center and the Outreach Center's programs.
I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Host disabled participant screen sharing.
I just gave you co-host capability, so go ahead and try again, Nora.
Okay. Share screen. Are you able to see that?
No.
No.
Oh, okay. There we go. And I'm moving it over.
Okay, there we go.
You able to see that?
Yes.
Okay. So my name is Nora Garza. I'm the manager of the Dignity Health Learning and Outreach Centers. We do quite a bit from both of our centers. I'll go ahead and talk about our Learning Center first and then our Outreach Center. Then at the very end, I did include our address and phone number in case anybody needs it. So out of our Dignity Health Learning Center, I have a picture on there of our facility. We have different things that we help the public out with, and one of them is bus passes. So if anybody wants a bus pass, they can come, but they need to have a verifiable medical appointment. And as soon as they show us proof that they have a doctor's appointment, we go ahead and issue a bus pass for the day. We have hygiene kits. Our hygiene kits are only for the homeless, and the homeless can come for hygiene kits twice a month. The hygiene kits include a soap, razors, a comb, toothbrush, toothpaste, the bare necessities for hygiene. Baby diapers, people can come once a month and we give them like a handful of diapers once a month. And they also, when we give them the diapers, we also give them wipes, and they're able to come once a month for them. Infant formulas, one other thing that we have, we don't have all the varieties. So we have Infamil, which is the one that gets used the most and people ask for it the most. So they can come once a month and get some infant formula. Socks, underwear, and the t-shirts, they can come twice a month and we'll give them a set of that. The DMV vouchers, what it is if they're homeless, they can come once every 90 days to get a voucher for the DMV. And what it is they just, they get it free, they get their ID free, and it's not for driver's license, it's strictly an ID. And if you're homeless every 90 days and anybody else can come once every 6 months and get a voucher. So they do tend to lose their IDs a lot, and a lot of times they're not allowed to enter centers or doctor's offices, and they need it for so many things. So we allow them to come at least once every 90 days. We also do food assistance, emergency food baskets for the community. The homeless, what we do is the picture here on the right is a sample of what we might give a homeless person, and it's all the cans are easy open cans, because they used to come and say, you know, we get food at certain places and we don't have can openers. We're at the park or we're sleeping in a parking lot and can't open the cans. So we made it a point to make sure we had easy open cans for the homeless. And so they'll get a bag like that every month. individuals and families, their bags are, they're a little bit bigger and their cans are not easy open, because the easy opens are a little hard to come by when we go purchase food. But the families and individuals, their bags might include extra stuff like rice and beans, potatoes, pasta, stuff that they can actually cook at home since they do have a home. The sack lunches, those are strictly for the homeless. They can come every day and get a sack lunch. The sack lunch can include a sandwich, granola bars, chips, and it'll also include a drink every single time. So Senior Citizen Services at the Learning Center, every second and fourth Thursday of every month, we have gleaners come and they bring us food. We usually do about 25 to 30 boxes, depending on how much food we get that day. And on the right is a sample of what the boxes look like. So we have fresh fruit, vegetables, potatoes, drinks. They have sweets. The boxes vary every single month. So not every month it'll look the same. Every month it'll be different. Health services that we provide here at this center, we have the health screening program come, and they come every second Thursday of every month. And they check people's blood pressure, their cholesterol, their blood sugar, and hemoglobin. And the services are pretty fast. By the time the person sits down to get screened, by the time they leave, it could be like 7 minutes with their results. And we're doing this every month so people can come back and keep track of their numbers. And we just opened that last month because we had closed it down at this center, but we just started the services again. We also have a tutoring services from this center. And the program at this site is called the Homework Club. And we're just now finishing up the school year. And we're going to start our summer curriculum June 14. And we are currently accepting students. So we have a waiting list. So if anybody knows of students that might need some tutoring, give us a call. We'll put them on a waiting list and hopefully get them going. So out of our outreach center, we also provide tutoring services from that center. And the program there is called After School Club. And they serve children from kindergarten all the way to 6th grade. The College Dream program, they have students from 7th grade to 12th grade. And I'll brag about our College Dream program. Every student is a straight A student. And most of the students in that program are students that have been with us for years. And they've stayed with us and stayed with us. And all of them are straight A students. One student does have a B. But I'm sure by the end of the school year, that student will also have straight A's. So we are accepting applications for every single one of our tutoring programs. Out of that office, we also provide services for seniors, for food, and Community Action Partnership of Kern goes there every 4th Thursday of the month at 3 p.m. And they'll bring up to 30, 40 boxes of food, and they're there until all the boxes are gone. And KCAP normally keeps a list of the seniors that go, and they call them to remind them when they're going to be there. We also provide hot meals from that program. We have our breakfast club in the mornings from every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We start at 8:15 until all the plates are gone. And we have our dinner bell program, again, also Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And that one starts at 3:15 until all the meals are gone. In the morning, we have 35 plates that we give out. And in the afternoon for dinner bell, we have 50 meals that we give out. And those are the services we provide. And here is our contact information, our addresses. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to call us anytime. And please, if anybody knows of children that need tutoring, send them our way so that we can sign them up.
great information, Nora. Normally, if you have people on kids on a waiting list for the program for the tutoring, how long can they expect to be on there?
Well, we have 4 tutors at the Learning Center, and we have 3 at the Outreach Center. And each tutor has about 7 students, 8 max. And if a student drops out, we go to the list, first come, first serve, pretty much. And especially like in the summer, students will start and then the parents want to go on vacation. And so we'll have to drop the student and we'll bring in another one. But like during the school year, if a student is going to take a vacation, we don't drop them. We keep them because obviously it's not their fault. And we have a lot of children that come to our program, and we have a 4th grader that can't read. It's really sad to see, and it's something it's happening because a lot of children, we all learn at different paces, and a lot of children, they just can't learn through Zoom, through a visual. And so what we do is we do a one-on-one. We do group tutoring, but for those special students that need more attention, we do individual tutoring. And that 4th grader, we got that 4th grader reading already. So it's really good. And they just need a little extra push and a little extra more attention. And a lot of times there's a language barrier in the family, or there's things going on. We have children that we had to buy them headphones because, they live in a small home. There's a lot of children in the family and the child couldn't concentrate. So we try to accommodate them as much as we possibly can.
And most of your tutors are bilingual, or all?
Yes.
Most of them.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, great. That helps with the language
Definitely.
barrier there. Any other questions for Nora? She's located in Southeast Bakersfield, corner of Baker and East California. They have food available for folks there. Come by. They also have emergency clothing, I believe.
We do.
So,
we also do accept donations of clothing, and we have people just stop by with big bags of clothing. And what we do every morning, we try to separate it by children's clothing, adult clothing, male, female, and the people coming up for our services at the window they can take everything that they're able to use. Definitely.
all right, we have a question here, Nora. Are there requirements for children to join the program? I believe this is for the tutoring.
No, they just have to come and fill out an application so that we can have it on file, and it's pretty much first come, first serve. They do have to attend, like we do this 5 days a week, and we really want them to stick with the program and log on every day if possible. Obviously, there's things that happen and they might not be able to attend, but we'll be able to excuse them. But we want them to stay on track. That way the group is moving at the same pace and the tutor is not having to split the children, because sometimes they do have to split them, where we have children that are, they're all 5th graders, but we have 5th graders that are not learning as fast as the other ones. So we'll go ahead and split the students. But it's working out really good. It's working out really well.
Great. Well, thank you, Nora. I don't see any other additional questions. Just to comment, these are great services. So, keep up the good work you're doing out there at the Learning Center and the Outreach Centers. Very much needed services to our community.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much, Nora. We'll continue with our agenda here. We have with us today Pauline Shatara, and Pauline is from the California Advocates for Nursing Home Reform. They're long-term care advocates. They assist consumers with long-term care options, pre-placement counseling, guidance with Medi-Cal eligibility and estate recovery, resident rights complaints, elder financial abuse problems, and community education on various long-term care issues. Pauline is here to talk to us about Medi-Cal estate recovery. Welcome, Pauline.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm going to share my PowerPoint presentation. And let's see, go back to the beginning. And start my slideshow. Okay, everyone can see my screen? Yeah, that's good. Okay, great.
Yes.
All right. So the Medi-Cal recovery laws changed in 2017. So before that, it was very strict. And because of that, there's many people who are scared to apply for Medi-Cal because they're worried about Medi-Cal recovery and worried that Medi-Cal is going to take their home. Luckily, the laws have changed and it's very easy to prevent recovery if the Medi-Cal beneficiary is still alive and able to make some changes to their estate. You did a great job of going over our services. On our website, we do have lots of downloadable PDFs, fact sheets that are great to give to your clients. And it's actually very important because these topics are really complicated. So I've noticed you explain it to somebody and they may walk away with kind of half of the explanation or have it backwards. So it's really important to follow up with those fact sheets so that they can make sure they can go home and digest it. And our consumer hotline is a 1-800 number, so it's toll free to anyone in California. So they can call and we provide free services over the phone. Pre-placement counseling, it's very limited. Basically, we explain to people how to look for facilities and what to look for. We're not going to place anyone in a facility or call facilities for them. That's a very daunting task, but we do explain to them how to do it. Medi-Cal information and counseling. We do Medi-Cal recovery. We explain to people when they call us and give us information about their estate and their situation, what they can do to avoid Medi-Cal recovery. Residents' rights in long-term care facilities, elder abuse in long-term care facilities. And we also have a lawyer referral service. So if somebody needs estate planning, if somebody needs Medi-Cal, but they need some estate planning before they can qualify, maybe they're slightly over assets, we can refer them to an attorney. If they want to avoid Medi-Cal recovery, that's another thing we can refer them to an attorney for. Or if there's been an abuse or neglect issue in a long-term care facility, or sometimes you may hear of financial abuse from a financial institution, people being sold improper products like annuities or a reverse mortgage under false pretenses, you can refer them to us. And then basically all the calls that we get from our 1-800 hotline, we get a good idea of what issues are on the ground and we take them and try to create legislative fixes or work with the administrative agencies to fix some of those problems. And ultimately, when all else fails, we do engage in litigation. We have litigated against the state when they're not upholding certain laws or rights that consumers have. Okay, so here is a list of the Medi-Cal recovery laws and regulations. I'm not going to go over these, but these are good to have, especially if somebody is having a recovery issue and they're working with an attorney that maybe worked on setting up their estate and they're not familiar with recovery, this is good to send to that attorney because then they can look up all the relevant laws and regulations and get up to speed. So Medi-Cal recovery after SB 833. So this budget bill passed in 2017. CANHR, our organization, co-sponsored with Western Center and helped create the changes. So this became effective January 2017. So before this, what was happening was in 2014, there was the Affordable Care Act and Medi-Cal was expanded to people 18 to 64 who were low income but had assets. So what was happening is people who were over 55 were they were going to be subject to Medi-Cal recovery just because they didn't make enough income to enroll in Covered California. They were automatically put onto Medi-Cal, and then their services were automatically subject to recovery. And even worse, because they were in managed care plans, even if they were not using services, Medi-Cal was basically paying out $600 per month for that individual. So their claims were really were gradually increasing every month, whether or not they use the services. So this was very alarming. People were opting out of Medi-Cal, opting out of health insurance altogether because they were scared of Medi-Cal recovery. So in 2017, things changed, and now the laws are less strict. So I'll explain what the major changes were. So prohibits claims on the estates of surviving spouses and registered domestic partners. So that means if somebody is married, the first spouse or registered domestic partner, if they were on Medi-Cal and they passed, as long as they were married and that spouse lived past 2017, there's no recovery claim whatsoever. So if this first spouse was on Medi-Cal in a nursing home for 20 years and they have a spouse that survived them, there's no claim. Limits recovery for those 55 years of age or older to nursing home and home and community-based services. So before, they could recover if you were 55 years of age or older, period. Now, it's only if you're 55 years or older and in a nursing home or in a certain home and community-based services program. And that does not include in-home supportive services. Limits recovery to assets subject to probate. So if you have a trust, if your home is if it's tenants and sorry, I'll go over that. But basically, as long as it is not subject to probate, then there's no recovery. So I'll go over what the probate rules are. Restricts amount of interest that the state can charge on liens. So before, if you if say your mother died and you owed basically, and you couldn't pay and you didn't want to sell the home, you would have to pay 7% interest on that lien. So that has changed, which is good also. Requires the state to waive the claim when the estate is a homestead of modest value. And I'll go over what the criteria for that is. And then requires the state to provide a current or former beneficiary or their authorized representative a copy of the amount of medical expenses. So this is important because sometimes you see the list and there's charges on there that are not correct or things that they're not allowed to recover for. So it's important if you do get a claim and you do get the list that you look through it and make sure that all of those charges are recoverable and correct. And if not, you can get them fixed before you pay. Okay, so Medi-Cal beneficiaries subject to recovery after 1/1/2017. So again, for people who are 55 or older in a nursing home or receiving certain home and community-based services. So sometimes someone will call me and they'll say, I'm worried about Medi-Cal recovery. And I'll say, are you in a nursing home? And they'll say, no. I'll say, are you in, and I'll list the home and community-based services, and they'll say no. And so I tell them there's no Medi-Cal recovery for your services. The only time there could be recovery is if you went into a nursing home or if you were to sign up for one of these home and community-based services. So at this time, you don't have to do anything, or if you'd like to prepare because you know one day you will, then you can plan your estate to avoid probate, and then there will be no recovery. So beneficiaries of any age who were permanently institutionalized. Now, I've been here for 10 years and our director has been at our organization for 35 years. And she said this used to happen a lot in the 80s. People were considered permanently institutionalized if they were never expected to be able to return home. But there was a hearing. This doesn't happen anymore. It's not really relevant, but it's still part of the law. So we just put it in here just in case, but it's usually this doesn't happen. People aren't usually considered permanently institutionalized under the age of 55. And there's the law. Okay, Medi-Cal Services subject to recovery. So before, like I said, if someone was 55, they thought they were getting on Covered California, but their income was too low and they were getting Medi-Cal through managed care. Medi-Cal could recover for the services they were receiving. That doesn't happen anymore. Now it's only allowed if they were enrolled in a certain home and community-based services program and they were over 55 or they were in a nursing home. And we do have the list right here of the home and community-based services. So they're waiver programs. Many people say, you know, how would I know? These programs are very difficult to get into. They have a long application process. If you were in this program, you would know you were in the program because they don't passively enroll people into these programs. It's a long application process, so you would know. And I did say before that IHSS on its own is not recoverable, but if you're in one of these programs like Home and Community-Based Alternatives Waiver, where they provide IHSS services through that, then that could be recoverable. But if you're just in in-home supportive services, that is not going to be recoverable. So I know many people over who are on Medi-Cal and aged, many of them are on in-home supportive services. That on its own is not recoverable. Okay, and this is a list of the home and community-based services programs that are subject to recovery. So someone would need to be enrolled in one of these programs and over age 55 in order for their services to be subject to recovery. But again, even if they are in one of these programs, one, if they don't have anything, if they don't have an estate, there's no recovery. And two, they can set up their estate to avoid probate and then avoid recovery. And I'll go through that later. So like I mentioned before, California cannot recover for all managed care services. The amount of the claim, it is important. So you can, if someone passes, you can request an itemization, and you're going to want to take a look at that itemization. You can always call us if you have somebody like that, or you can tell them to call us and we can look through and see. For example, if someone was on Quimby or Slimby, where Medicare was paying for their premiums, that shouldn't be on that list, but we've seen it there. So we've gone through these bills with people and helped them get them down if they are subject to recovery. But again, you can avoid recovery in the first place. But in some cases, some people, they don't know about Medi-Cal recovery, they didn't realize. And then at the end, there is a claim that the family member has to deal with. And at that point, they're going to be looking at the bill and the itemization to see if they can get it down. So exemptions for surviving spouses and registered domestic partners. This is the #1 question people ask all the time. If my spouse is on Medi-Cal, is our estate going to be subject to recovery? So this is tricky because if there's no estate planning done and you're relying on the one spouse to survive, the ill spouse, there's no guarantee that the second spouse isn't going to pass away. So it's still advisable if one spouse is in a nursing home or receiving home and community-based services, it's important to still do the estate planning, because you never know if the second spouse dies. If the well spouse dies before the ill spouse, then there's going to be a claim. So the other thing that sometimes comes up is someone may have had a spouse pass before 2017 and they call us now worried, is there a claim? So one of the things that you want to ask is, when did your spouse pass away? If it was after January 1st, 2017, it doesn't apply. If it was before January 1st, 2017, their estate could be subject to Medi-Cal recovery. Okay. Other exemptions from recovery. And this, again, I wouldn't rely on this. So if somebody calls me and they say, I have a child who is under 21, I wouldn't say don't plan for recovery, because what if that child is close to, what if the person passes after they're 21? Then that's no longer an exemption. A surviving child of any age who is blind or disabled, and this is at the time of the claim. So we've seen people call us, they've said, well, I do have a blind or disabled child, so my estate's not going to be subject to recovery. And then the blind or disabled child may pass away maybe after the person on Medi-Cal and before the claim, and that won't protect the home from recovery. So even if you have a surviving child under 21 or a blind or disabled child, it's not the best thing to rely on that. This is great if the person's already passed away and they didn't do any planning, and this will save the family and save the estate from Medi-Cal recovery, but I would not use this as a plan. And when we say a surviving child of any age who is blind or disabled, they do not have to be an heir. They do not have to be living in the property. And you do have to prove that they are their child by birth certificate or adoption papers, and you have to show that they are blind or disabled. So you have to have proof. If you don't have proof, if they say they never went through the disability determination process, they can apply and be determined at that time. It will delay the process, but they would have to be determined through the Department of Social Services as disabled. So new definition of estate. So this is what changed with the new law. Estate means all real and personal property and other assets in the individual's probate estate that are required for subject to a claim for recovery pursuant. So so they changed the definition of estate. Before, it didn't matter if the estate went through probate or not. A living trust used to be subject to recovery. So people used to have to transfer the home, or they used to have to do an irrevocable trust. And the issue with that was, if they set up an irrevocable trust, it really tied up the home. They couldn't sell the home. They couldn't do what they needed with the home during their lifetime to accommodate whatever changes or needs they had. If they transferred the home, it would save them from Medi-Cal recovery. But what if their child got married and divorced? They could lose the home that way. What if the child had terrible debt or a gambling problem? Or what if the child and the parent disagreed and they kicked them out? It could be problematic. So now, instead of having to give up the rights to your home, as long as your home isn't subject to probate, so for example, a living trust, you can avoid Medi-Cal recovery and be the Medi-Cal beneficiary and still have full rights over your home until you pass away, and you can protect your home and leave it to your heirs. So estates that are eligible for probate, so it's if your estate is under if the value is under $166,250 or less, then your estate is not subject to probate. So say somebody has a bank account and they don't have a trust, that doesn't mean it's going to go through probate. In some cases, somebody may have a trust. They may have a living trust maybe that they set up. But what you want to be careful is, if somebody goes to one of those websites and sets up a living trust and does it incorrectly, then there's a possibility that that estate could end up going through probate. So you want to make sure that if you're trying to protect this asset from Medi-Cal recovery, that you're doing it correctly. One of the big things that I hear from people is, I called somebody to do a trust and they said it was going to be $3,000. Well, that $3,000 could be saving you from, $100,000 Medi-Cal recovery claim. So when you look at the cost benefit analysis, that $3,000 that you're doing to set up the trust correctly isn't that much. And sometimes the Medi-Cal beneficiary doesn't have the money. But in that case, they may want to ask their heirs to help pitch in, because they're the ones that are going to benefit. They're the ones that are going to inherit the estate. And if there isn't something done to prevent Medi-Cal recovery, they're going to have a huge chunk of interest taken out of their estate, depending on how long that person was in a nursing home, or how long that person was enrolled in a home and community-based services program. So there are things excluded from a probate or probate administration. So before, mobile homes used to be subject to Medi-Cal recovery. If someone has a mobile home, that is no longer recoverable. So if they have a mobile home and their bank account is less than $166,250, there's nothing they have to do to plan or avoid Medi-Cal recovery. it's not subject to recovery. So if you were to send somebody to us who's worried about enrolling in Medi-Cal, what we would do is we would talk to them, go over what assets they have. And if there's nothing subject to recovery, we let them know. There's nothing that's subject to recovery unless this were to happen in the future. And then at that point, they may say, okay, I'll call you back if anything changes. But if there are assets that are subject to recovery, then at that point, we can refer them to an attorney to set up a trust if they need that. Assets exempt from a claim. So as I mentioned before, people used to transfer their home prior to death. Now they can have a trust, but before they used to have to transfer it out of their name. So if that Medi-Cal beneficiary transferred the property out of their name prior to death, that's no longer in their estate. So living trusts or joint tenancies. So say someone can't afford an attorney and they go to a title company and put the home in joint tenancy. That will prevent Medi-Cal recovery. Life estates, survivorship, as long as the property is not subject to probate administration, then it's not subject to Medi-Cal recovery. And most people that I talk to, they know whether their home is in a living trust or in joint tenancy. And if they don't know if it's joint tenancy, one of the confusing things people can't remember, is it joint tenancy or tenancy in common? Tenancy in common does not prevent Medi-Cal recovery. So you tell them, go look at your deed, go look at the paperwork. It will say joint tenancy or tenancy in common. So only joint tenancy is going to avoid probate and prevent Medi-Cal recovery, not tenants in common. Homestead of modest value. So if there's a home, usually this happens more in rural areas, but if there's a home whose fair market value is 50% or less of the average price of homes in the county, and they use a website to determine, let me see. So, they use the California Association of Realtors to determine if it's a homestead of modest value. But again, we had a client who they had a homestead of modest value. We looked it up on Zillow. It seemed like it would be a homestead of modest value, and Medi-Cal still sent them a claim. The Medi-Cal recovery worker lied and said that they got estimates that it wasn't 50% or less. They actually lied. And we were able to obtain those figures from CANHR and realize that, and CANHR said they didn't have an official estimate for that county. And so what happened was they had to use the Zillow and Redfin estimates. So there are cases where just because they say no, you don't always just believe them. I would say give us a call and we can help the person work through it. In this case, we were able to get their claim waived and they did not have a recovery claim after that. But if they had just gone along with what this recovery person had said, they would have been paying back a large amount. So this is a hardship waiver, and I'll explain what hardship waivers are in the next slide. But if they can prove it, they're required to waive the claim. Life insurance and retirement accounts, those are exempt from Medi-Cal recovery. For retirement accounts, you want to make sure that the Medi-Cal beneficiary names on their retirement account a beneficiary. For some reason, some people would name their estate, and that could be subject to recovery. But as long as you name an actual person, then it will not be subject to recovery. Annuities are no longer subject to recovery. And I mentioned this before, you can get a claims detail report. So it's only $5. You can make it once a year by internet, phone, or mail, but you can only do this if the person, if the estate would be subject to recovery. So if the person is 55, but they're not in a nursing home and not on a home and community-based services program, you cannot get a claims detail report because their services are not subject to recovery. But you can in advance. So say someone's been on Medi-Cal for a while, they've been in a nursing home, and their children want to determine, is it worth paying money to get a trust. How much do we already owe? They could do that by getting a claims detail report. Also, so once someone passes away, they have to notify Medi-Cal Recovery. The heirs are responsible for sending a copy of the death certificate and a notice of death to Medi-Cal Recovery within 90 days. Many people don't know this. So if you don't send it within 90 days, there's not a penalty, but the clock doesn't start. So it just really delays the process. So for non-probated estates, the state of California has 3 years to file a claim. However, if the estate is going through probate, the state of California only has 4 months after notice to file the claim. So basically, what happens a lot of times is someone starts the probated estate. One moment, sorry, my dog's barking at me. Okay, sorry about that. Just have to let her out so she'd be quiet. So with a probated estate, what I've seen happen is someone says, well, my estate's going through probate. It's been 4 months and Medi-Cal has never sent me a claim. And we asked them, well, did anybody send Medi-Cal Recovery a probate notice that your estate was going through probate? And they said, no, we didn't. Well, Medi-Cal, they don't have, they're not psychic. They don't know that, they don't get notices that the estate is being probated. You have to actually send it to them. And then they have 4 months. So what that would mean is, say you sent them the notice that the probate was starting. If they didn't send a claim until 6 months, they can't collect anything. Their time has passed. Trust estate, 4 months after notice. So it's very important to keep in mind that you do need to notify the estate. Sometimes people think, well, maybe if I don't notify them and I spend everything or get rid of things before they notice, eventually, say they send it on year 2, you're still going to have that claim. You're still going to have to pay it back. So you're better off sending the notice within the 90 days and starting the process and getting everything out of the way. So who determines the value of the estate? So that would be the California CAR, the California Association of Realtors. But you can, if you want to just do an estimate, you can look on Redfin or Zillow to get an estimate of, where that home is compared to other homes in that area. Hardship criteria. So say that the family, say they didn't know about Medi-Cal Recovery, and unfortunately, they didn't do anything to, avoid probate. They didn't do anything to prevent Medi-Cal Recovery, and the Medi-Cal beneficiary has now passed, and there is an estate. There are hardship criteria. So after they get the claim, they have 60 days to apply for a hardship. So these hardship criteria, they're not very easy, but you could always call us, and this is something we would help the person with the application. We'd help them make sure that they're putting in the right stuff. And so in this case, we wouldn't refer them to an attorney. This is a kind of service we'd provide for free. So one, property is income of producing business. An example of that is, say the property that they inherited that is subject to recovery is an income producing farm. That would be an example. So say the Medi-Cal beneficiary passes and there's only one heir to the estate and they're on SSI and Medi-Cal, and getting this inheritance would help them discontinue their public benefits. They could prove that they're on public benefits and that inheriting this estate would kick them off, and that would waive the claim. Age, blind or disabled, or living in the home, that they just have to provide proof of disability and their birth certificate. If they were a caregiver, this is a very common hardship exemption, and this is the easiest one to get. If someone was a caregiver for 2 years or more, and they provided care that prevented or delayed that person going into a nursing home, then and they're the only heir to the estate, then they can get the whole claim waived. Say they're 50% heir, then they can only get their 50% waived. So if there's two siblings, one was the caregiver and the other one was not, then only the caregiver is going to get their inheritance portion waived. But basically, so for example, if they were an IHSS caregiver, that's really easy to prove. You also have to prove that you were living in the home at the time that you were providing care. So you would have to show, like, you could show that your name is on a utility bill or something like that. You would show your IHSS timesheets. If you were not a formal IHSS caregiver, if you get their primary care physician or a doctor to write a note saying that this person provided care that prevented or delayed their entry into a nursing home for 2 years, and they show proof that they were living there, that's enough to waive the claim. So that's very common, that you have a caregiver child that, you know, for whatever reason, they didn't know about Medi-Cal recovery, and they took care of their loved one until finally they went into a nursing home and they're still living in the home, and to have to pay back a claim would be devastating for them. No consideration means there's cases where, for example, somebody buys a house with their own money and they add the Medi-Cal beneficiary parent onto the title just to be nice, just to give them a sense of they own a home. We've seen this happen, but they didn't pay anything. They didn't really own the home. They just put it on there to make them feel good. If they can prove that they paid all those payments and that it did not come from the Medi-Cal beneficiary, then you can show there, you know, their ownership interest had no consideration. Equity needed. So that's a really difficult one to prove. Say the house is in shambles, and in order to make it habitable, you'd have to do so much work. You'd have to get estimates of the work that needs to be done, and pictures, and send that to the Medi-Cal recovery department, and they would determine that you know, they're going to waive the claim because the money that they would have taken from the claim is needed to make that home even habitable. And then homestead of modest value, I explained before, but you can avoid all of this criteria if you are making sure that the estate avoids probate, or you transferred it before the person passed away, then you can avoid recovery entirely. This is more for the case where somebody did not do any planning, they didn't know about recovery, but there's still a chance to get the claim waived based on this hardship criteria. And here's more information about a homestead of modest value. So you can have that if you want to read through it more. Interest, I mentioned this, the interest on estate claims are now limited. It used to be 7% interest. So it's now, I don't know if it's still 0.588%, but that's much better than 7%. But it depends on the year preceding the year in which the decedent died. So that's what you're going to have to look at, is if you're talking to the client, you have to find out when did that person pass to find out the rate that they're going to use. And even though this law passed January 1st, 2017, they still have not promulgated the regulations. So we don't have the current regulations reflecting this law. We have a state plan amendment that you can see what all these changes are, but they still haven't formally released the regulations. But all the new rules still apply. Here's a case sample. Let's see, I think I'm out of time, so you can take a look at these. But I will mention this is a list of some of the estate planning strategies. So you can transfer the home, make sure the property isn't subject to probate, make sure it's not a homestead of modest value. If it's a life insurance policy, name a beneficiary. A retirement account, name a beneficiary. What's good to do is to make sure that the Medi-Cal beneficiary has a power of attorney with gifting and real estate transfer clauses. Sometimes the person isn't in a nursing home when they do this power of attorney. but maybe later on down the line, unexpectedly, they need to go. If the family's able to make these changes and do estate planning, then they can help avoid Medi-Cal recovery. And so, so there are ways to prevent Medi-Cal recovery. We have fact sheets on our website, and you can always call us. This is our director's email, but you can email me at Pauline@canhr.org. I'll send this to everyone in the chat. So you can always email me if you have a recovery question, but if you have a client, you can always just tell them to call our 1-800 number. Any questions? No? Okay. Well,
There we go. Sorry, I have to unmute myself here. What should be the first step for somebody to seek out estate planning services?
they should give us a call, because what we do is we make sure that if they even need it. A lot of people don't realize that their services they're receiving aren't subject to recovery, but some people may actually have a home and they may want to put it in a trust because probate is expensive. It's actually more costly than doing estate planning, because when you do a trust, they're going to usually have a rate. Like they may say it's $2,000 for a trust, or it's $4,000 for a trust, or whatever. But if you're going through probate, they're going to charge you a percentage of the value of the estate. And if you live in California, you know, even if when you bought the home it was modest, chances are the value has gone up. So I would have them call CANHR, and then we can do an intake and assess their need for an attorney. And then we would refer them to an attorney in their area. We have attorneys all over California.
Okay, and we have Teresa Alvarado with her hand raised. Teresa?
Hi, Rodrigo, and hi, Pauline. I have known about your organization for years and years and years, and I know your director. So it's nice to see that you are all still very active with this area of the law.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's use me for an example. So I have a home, I bought it, it was very modest. However, I know that property values have increased. I am getting ready to retire. And I've been very fortunate to save money to be able to retire early. I'm not planning on dying, but if I were to put my home or to consult with an attorney today, with all that you've said, I think that I look richer than I am.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, in 10 years, I won't have the money that I have. Maybe my house will go up in value, but when is the best time for, I mean, I've always had insurance. I'm going to have Medicare in a couple of months. That's the reason why I'm retiring. I'm retiring because I don't need my employer coverage anymore. And I really don't want to work very much anymore. So when is the best time for someone to make a decision to say, hey, you know what? I should consult with someone in case.
So it depends. So if you've done no estate planning with your home, now is a good time. I mean, at any age, if you have a home and it's not in a trust and you pass away, it'll be subject to probate. And if you don't even have a will, then you know it's going to go through probate and it's going to go to your next of kin. So at any age, if you own a home, usually it's a good time to talk to an attorney about avoiding probate, separate from Medi-Cal recovery. And if you do that, then you'll never have to worry about Medi-Cal recovery in the future. And then, you know, usually when people think about Medi-Cal, that's more at a time. So even if you have Medicare, Medicare doesn't pay for any in-home care. So if you need in-home supportive services, for example, Medicare isn't going to cover that. So that's when people start considering, can I get Medi-Cal? Because I just need a little bit of assistance at home. I need maybe just some help with cleaning, or maybe I need someone to help me with grocery shopping or taking me to doctor's appointments. That's really when people who have Medicare, realize Medicare isn't enough.
Okay, that sounds really good. Thank you, Pauline.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you, Pauline. I think we're out of time, like you said. Wish we would have had more time to go over some of those sample scenarios, but we do have some other information that we do need to get to our CECs here in the county. So thank you very much, Pauline.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure and very informative presentation that you gave us.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, Pauline. All right. Well, that was great information. I hope you all took some notes and or screenshots. Hopefully, I'm not sure if Argelia will be able to have that presentation for us to distribute, but hopefully we can work something out. Next on our agenda, we have a public charge update. Marisol Guillen as our outreach specialist from Community Health Initiative, and she'll give us the update on public charge.
Good morning, everyone. Just wanted to share a little bit of an update of what's going on with public charge. We haven't really met since there's been some changes. So just as a reminder, in 2019, the public charge rule changed. The description was to say that a person who receives one or more benefits for more than 12 months in 3 years could be subject to the public charge rule. They also added some of additional benefits, and it included long-term care, general assistance, any cash assistance, CalFresh, federal, state, local, or tribal cash assistance, housing assistance, and also non-emergency Medi-Cal, with the exception of children and pregnant women. So that was the final rule back in August 2019. It became effective February 24, 2020. So after that, once the Biden administration started, they changed that rule now. So as of March, they reverted back to what it was before. So a person who's likely to become primarily dependent on the government for assistance, and those public benefits are only two: long-term care that is paid by the government, and any cash assistance. So they're no longer including housing assistance or CalFresh or Medi-Cal as part of the benefits. And just some of the timeline for the next slide. So on February 2nd, President Biden issued the executive order in which the Secretary of Homeland Security had to review the previous implementation of the public charge rule. Then on March 9th, it was determined that the Department of Homeland Security will restore back to what it was before the Trump administration, which was following the field guidance from 1999 for those applications that are processed here within the U.S. As a reminder, it is important to tell individuals, we as CECs here at CHI, we do not hold we're not accredited by the Department of Justice, so we cannot offer legal assistance. The only thing that we can do is share with them what is the public charge rule as of right now. If they have any additional questions or if they want to seek legal advice, we always refer them to our partners. And then also some reminders, not everyone is entitled to public charge. There are some exceptions. Some immigrants are exempt. That this includes those that have are refugees, asylees, also if they have any visa type U or T. Also, benefits used by family members will not be considered. This is only evaluating the person who's trying to adjust their immigration status, and that needs to be from undocumented to a legal permanent resident. It does not apply to legal permanent residents that are trying to become U.S. citizens. Also, legal permanent residents that leave the country for more than 6 consecutive months may be subject to a public charge test upon entry by the DHS officials. Another thing to remember is that positive factors are always going to be looked into considered, and everything, it's a whole situation. It's not just because you're using benefits, it means that you're a public charge. They're going to consider other factors such as your age, any skills that you have, education, your financial stability, also your household size. And as a reminder, each situation is different. Not because my friend went through the process, it means that it's going to happen to me. And as always, consult with an immigration attorney or a representative. And that's all I have. I believe as part of the packet, Argelia included the public charge revised flyer that was created as part of the ORU committee. If you need any copies or if you want us to customize that flyer to include your information, please feel free to let us know and we'll make that available to you.
Sorry about that. Get me off mute here. Thank you for the information, Marisol. I don't see any questions here in the chat, so we'll continue with our updates here. Nancy Gonzalez, our enrollment specialist, will provide information about any new Medi-Cal updates. Nancy?
Hello, good morning. Nice to see a lot of your names here on the list. As Rodrigo stated, I will be providing some information pertaining to updates that we have found pertaining to Medi-Cal. We do know that Department of Healthcare Services, due to COVID, as you know, that a lot of our community and ourselves as well have been impacted with COVID. So we wanted to bring this information to show what is it that our Department of Healthcare Services is doing to kind of help our local Department of Human Services with the process and procedures now that are in place due to COVID. So what we have found is that DHCS is meeting with their local counties every month on a monthly basis and keeping updates and guidance to be followed. We also know that they have dedicated a box for our county to submit any questions pertaining to cases or those that they need assistance and help with one-on-one cases. We also know that, give me a quick second here, due to the closure of our counties, as we know, they were assisting, thank you to our local county, Kayla, I'm not sure if you're still here, but I know you guys have been extremely busy accepting phone calls, as now calls are being more and more as the agency is closed. And I do know that our local DHS has, as we know, prioritized new applications that are coming in, and at times granting applications on the phone with their clients. And this is something that was encouraged by DHCS to help our community, which means in turn, our local DHS is extremely busy. So next slide, Argelia, please. Here we go. Flexibilities for the Medi-Cal, again, during COVID. Counties have been instructed to delay process for Medi-Cal annual renewals. As we know, and Gayla had given us this information prior, renewals are not being sent for everyone. But at times when renewals are being sent, we are being highly encouraged to assist our clients in submitting them. We do know that if we do submit renewal packets at this time, there would not be a negative action taken, which means if, let's say, a case is reviewed and it is determined that a family member is high income, then at that point, that case would be flagged. That person or persons within that case would not be discontinued until it's done, it's lifted, until the state says it's time for you guys to renew. So again, helping those community members that receive that renewal packet would be greatly appreciated if we send it. There is no negative action or discontinuous except if a person dies the person requests to be discontinued from the Medi-Cal program, or the beneficiary no longer resides in the state or moves to a long-term care aid code. Verification of flexibilities would mean we have been informed that our local Department of Human Services can take a verbal affidavit and a signature would be accepted at that time. A verbal affidavit could be, let's say, for income verification. If a client's submitting income and they don't have a pay stub, it would take somewhat, let's say, longer to submit a self-affidavit. They could go ahead and make that call to our local CAT center, and the verbal statement would be taken. We also know that we have that expanded hospital presumptive eligibility, which means prior to COVID, person over the age of 19 could go into an emergency room, get an emergency hospital presumptive eligibility, and that would be done only once a year. Now, because of COVID, the state has allowed 2 times a year for that to happen. And this is for anyone over 19 years of age. So they have allowed that to happen 2 times within a 12-month period. So that's another flexibility that has came about. And again, due to federal mandate, I don't know if you've heard, which I am very happy about. I believe it would bring a lot of benefits, not only to our maybe DHS workers, but I see it as a benefit for our clients, especially those that move from county to county. It has said that by 2024, we will be in a single system, which means there will be some migrations happening. The LRS, which stands for Leader Replacement System, will be migrating in one wave. So we have 3 different kinds of systems that are used throughout the state. We have the Leader Replacement System. We have the See for Yourself, which is here in Kern County. We have that program. And we also have CalWin. So those 3 will be migrating into one by 2024. So the LRS will be migrating into one wave in November 2021. The See for Yourself will also be migrating in one wave, and we hope that to transition to happen by September 2021. And the CalWin, as being used by several counties, will be migrating into 6 separate waves. So the first one we are looking at will be migrating hopefully by October 2022, and the last one to happen in 2024. So we are going to be in one system by 2024, which will be the CalSauce. So the reason I say I see this as a benefit is for what I've experienced for clients that are moving from one county to another. Sometimes it might take a little bit longer. And in hopes of this new system that will happen by 2024, I hope that transferring of cases, or when a client moves from one county to another, the transition could hopefully be easier, faster, more beneficial, not only for the client, but also for our local Department of Human Services. Next slide, please, Argelia. So what we have also learned is that we will be having a new single streamlined paper application. What does that mean? Is that right now we do have an application for Cover California. They will be making a streamline to mirror what's in the computer. And with this application, we will be hopefully determining eligibility for both programs. So the questions that will be asked there will be targeted for both programs, but mirroring what we now see in CalHRs. The font will be changed to a 12 font size, and it will be translated into 19 languages. And this is being implemented after federal approval. Also, a renewal application. Sometimes we might have in a household family members that are Magi, but within the same household, we have those that are non-Magi. What does that mean? That this family would potentially get 2 different renewal packets in the year. Now, things are changing, and now hopefully both will be incorporated into one, which means that family that's Magi and non-Magi will get one pre-populated form once a year. So I don't know how many of you CECs have faced or known of a client coming into you, let's say in January, and let's say May or June, they're coming back with another renewal packet. And sometimes they even say, well, I already did that, so I'm not going to do it. And unfortunately, before, when that would happen, we would see some family members drop off of Medi-Cal for failure to provide. So this right here as well, I see it as a good thing for our community. They will be receiving one, and all this, the paper application, the Magi, non-Magi combined into one, pre-populated, changed into the font and the languages, will take effect this year, December 2021. So I believe it's great changes that are coming our way. And as all of you CECs out there, I say thank you. And this, I believe it's great information to be able to share and be able to continuously help our community. Anyone have any questions?
Wow, great information, Nancy. A lot of things happening with Medi-Cal. So thank you for bringing that information to us. We'll continue on with Cecilia Flores, enrollment counselor here at Community Health Initiative, and quite a few things happening as well in covered California, right, Cecilia?
Thank you, Rodrigo. Yes, so we providing you some information with updates with Covered California. I'm going to start by saying that the American Rescue Plan was signed into law by the President Biden on March 11, and it was passed into the response to the prolonged impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. On that slide, you can see some of the information. There's more reduced required household contributions. The American Rescue Plan provides new and expanded subsidies. So Californians without employer coverage will now pay more, will not pay more than 8.5% of income towards their healthcare premiums. And the new subsidies will help Californians get covered and stay covered by lowering their premiums and putting more money into their pockets, which is something that's good. It will expand premium assistance for 2021 and 2022. So this is good for those people who are currently paying a lot of their medical coverage. And so now with these new benefits, they will now see a decrease in their monthly premiums. Another thing that is important is that the households receiving or approved to receive at least 1 week of unemployment income benefits during 2021 may be eligible for increased financial help for the remainder of the year, 2021. So a consumer must attest under penalty of perjury within the application to receive receiving unemployment insurance income for any week in the 2021 benefit year. And some cases will be randomly selected to verify if indeed the consumer did receive unemployment income benefits, and the consumer must provide proof. Also increases federal premium taxes credits by limiting the consumer's required contributions to no more than 8.5% of the household income. The savings are for those who are enrolled or are going to enroll into one of the health plans within the market, such as Covered California. The plans say that you can only pay 8.5% of your income. That would be the cost of your coverage, no matter if your income is high, medium, or low. For example, if a family is now paying $1,100 a month for a family of 3 or 4, with the new plans and financial aid available, they are now only going to pay $506. So can you imagine this would be a savings of $600 a month? So that's very good. The new grants from the American Rescue Plans are very generous, and federal subsidies used to stop at 400% of the federal poverty level for the household size, but now they will continue. This is significant because there was a 400% cliff. So if someone earned $1 above the 400%, there were no subsidies for the person, and the federal poverty limit is based on the household size and income. So the older Affordable Care Act subsidies stop at 400%, but now the new American Rescue Plan subsidies will increase or pass the 600% of the federal poverty level. So something that is really important, I think the American Rescue Plan has done away with the 400%. So another example is if the if someone who is in Cabo California or was in Cabo California before, and they estimated their income at 300% of the federal poverty level, but then when they file and modify, their modified adjusted gross income was over, say, 450%, they will have to repay all of the subsidies that they receive during the year, but that has gone away at least for 2021 and 2022. So that's something very good. Next slide, please. Okay, so throughout April, Cabo California automatically predetermined eligibility and provided updated subsidy amounts for current Cabo California enrollees who have provided consent for verification, apply via subsidized application, and are eligible, have not terminated or canceled their enrollment, or are not in a qualified health plan hold or in a carry forward status. All eligibility redeterminations have been effective as of May 1st, 2021 for all active consumers. And although the change was effective in CalHERS as of May 1st, 2021, consumers may receive May bills from their carriers that do not yet reflect the updated values from CalHERS. But if you or any consumer have any questions regarding May and future premium bills, please contact the applicable health insurance carriers. So the American Rescue Plan only modified the Affordable Care Act through 2022. So we know we're good for 2021 and 2022 unless something changes, and this will get extended. I think so far, those are all the updates that I have, unless someone else would like to contribute with more information, or if you may have any questions.
I don't see any questions. Ceci, thank you for that
You're
update. Let's see, let me double check on the questions. No. We have Medicare updates now with Argelia Diaz from Community Health Initiative.
Thank you, Rodrigo. Okay, so just a quick tidbits and reminders under Medicare. As many of you know, our program, Community Health Initiative, received a grant a little over almost a year and a half ago, and we are now supporting the community with Medicare, either education or post-enrollment support. We do not do enrollment, but we do refer out to our partners. That's CHI Napa and also Carrington. So if anybody is needing assistance with Medicare, you could refer them over to us, and we could potentially help them explain and understand maybe their coverage. And if they need maybe an enrollment or a change, we could refer them over to our partners. Right now, currently, there's a special enrollment period for those that have moved or maybe lost their coverage. This gives them the opportunity to change their Medicare Advantage plans and any Medicare prescription drug coverage. We had recently had 2 trainings in the month of April. I just wanted to bring back the information in regards to that training. There were 38 individuals that registered. 32 of them actually received hard copies of the material. And we had them back in April 15th was the first session that went over parts A and B. And April 22nd was the second session that went over part C and D. In both sessions, well, on the first session, we had 35 people attended and 25 people on the second one. So I think it was well attended, and we had many individuals across Kern County that were able to attend. As you see on the slide, there were some from Bakersfield, Lamont, McFarland. We had one from San Francisco, Fraser Park, Lake Isabella, or Arvin, Orange County. So it was well received, and I thank all of you that were able to attend the training. It was given by Mr. Peter Bayer, who was the lead trainer for the Learning Center of Medicare and Medicaid Services. So that was my Medicare updates in a nutshell.
Thank you, Argelia. Yes, we had great attendance at those trainings and very good information provided. Any questions for any of our staff on Medi-Cal, Covered California, or Medicare updates? Seeing no hands.
Rodrigo, I just wanted to give a good example of the savings that are happening within Covered California.
Oh, okay. Ceci.
I do have two of my clients that I've already assisted. One of them, they were paying $129 for their insurance, and with the assistance, they're paying now $2 for their premium, and that's for a 94% silver medal. The other example that I do have, the couple were paying $229 also for a silver medal, and now they're going to be paying $27 a month.
Wow, great
so
savings.
They're good for the whole year now.
Yeah, very good news.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Anybody have questions? Or we'll jump right into announcements.
Rodrigo, before we jump into announcements, I just wanted to give everybody the opportunity to do an evaluation of our meeting today. So I'm going to go ahead and launch the polling before we go into announcements. So it's just 4 simple questions that you are able to go ahead and vote on now. And this will just help us in the future when organizing these meetings on a quarterly basis to see what topics to present, and then, organize it a little better.
Is there a time limit, Argelia, on this questionnaire?
I'll give everybody 2 minutes to go ahead and complete. In the meanwhile, you could go ahead and do announcements, Rodrigo.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get started with announcements. Had a hand raised a little bit ago. Maritza from Kern Family Healthcare. Maritza, welcome.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. I do have 2 announcements for you guys. One of them is just a friendly reminder to our CECs that Kern Family Healthcare does cover transportation for our families needing to get their COVID-19 vaccines. So they have scheduled appointments to go in and get their shots, but they don't have transportation. All they got to do is give us a call to our 1-800-391-2000, option number 3. And they can go ahead and be connected to a member services that will help them schedule that appointment, transportation. And so just a friendly reminder, I did email Argelia and the CHI team that information. If you can please share, Argelia, when you have a moment, of it just details of what the transportation covers. On a second note, Kern Family Healthcare is a proud sponsor to the American Heart Association Go Red for Women. As a sponsor, we do have some slots available that we would like to offer to our CECs for your amazing work. And I know you guys work extremely hard. So I have 15 slots. If you're interested in attending at no cost, it will be to Kern Family Healthcare. We will sponsor your cost. It's for May 21st. It's for 1 hour from 12 to 1. It is an online platform for the Women Go Red due to COVID. So if you're interested in attending, first come, first serve for the first 15 women or men that want to attend, please email me and I will add you to my VIP list so you can attend. What I'll do is I'll put on the chat in a minute my email. And then as soon as I get that information, I fill those 15 slots, I will respond, let you know you're in, and then I will go ahead and register you. It's 1 hour of your time, no cost to you, just listen in, and they have some really good speakers, and there is a fashion show. So it'll be a lot of fun.
Thank you, Maritza.
Of course.
And thank you for that opportunity. We also have, what's the date again, Maritza, for the Go Red?
It is, let me pull it up, May 21st.
Okay.
From 12 to 1. So please email me by this Friday to let me know you're interested so I can add you to the registration.
Great, thank you. We also have Andrea Munguia. She also had her hand up a little bit ago. So Andrea, welcome. Good morning.
Good morning. I put a clapping little emoji.
We're having a little hard time hearing you. I don't know if anybody else is able to hear her. Andrea?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, a little bit better.
Oh no, I think it was a little emoji with the clapping. I think it was a clapping emoji.
Sorry, Andrea, we're still not able to hear you well.
I think she had said her hand wasn't raised. It was just a little clapping emoji, like she was applauding.
All right, sorry about that. Let's see, any other announcements?
I just want to say that there's 18 people that voted. 25 are still present. I showed 27, but I don't think it's counting the host or the co-host. So there's still an opportunity to do the polling. It's only 4 questions, guys.
All right. Okay, well, anybody else have any announcements? No? If not, then we'll conclude the meeting. As always, please let us know any future topics that you would like to have presented here at our quarterly meeting. So with that, we will sign off. Thank you very much for attending today. And hopefully someday soon we'll be able to get together face to face. Things are looking a little bit better, a lot better than last year. So we are hopeful that things can come back to normal sometime soon. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you.